I know that most of us is familiar with what is plow. What do we do with plow and what its uses? Let's tackle that here in this video segment. First, let us know what is a plow. It is the important agricultural implement since the beginning of history. It is to turn and break up soil, to bury crop residues, and to help control weeds. The world changed when a plow that could plow deep and turn over heavy clay soil was invented in the Middle Ages. Why? Because plow plays an important role in agricultural field. We know that plow is a farm tool for loosening or turning the soil before sowing seed or planting. Plows were traditionally drawn by oxen and horses, but in modern farms are drawn by tractors. A plow may be a wooden, iron, or steel frame, with a blade attached to cut and loosen the soil. It has been fundamental to farming for most of history. The invention of heavy plow made it possible to harness areas with clay soil, and clay soil was more fertile than the lighter soil types. This led to prosperity and literally created for breeding grounds for economic growth in cities, especially in Northern Europe. The heavy plow may seem insignificant nowadays, but it actually shaped the way we live now. Without it, we would not have these mass-producing food companies. The invention of the heavy plow by the medieval Europeans had a significant effect in that it shaped how we eat and live today. It also significantly increased urbanization in Europe and played one of the most important roles in the agricultural revolution.
Eyeglasses. The Middle Age era was a very inventive period, and one of the things they invented was eyeglasses. The earliest known eyeglasses used in medieval Europe were invented in Italy in 1286. Roger Bacon was the first person to use lens for optical purposes, but the magnifying lens was already used for reading purposes at that time. These magnifying lenses for reading were shaped like the small magnifying glasses and set into bone, metal, or leather mountings that could be balanced on the bridge of nose. Many people have always been nearsighted or farsighted, but until eyeglasses were invented, it helps them to do things such as writing and painting. Eyeglasses made it possible for people of all walks of life to continue to read, to write, and to work at both their hobbies and professions much later in life. The first known artistic representation of the use of eyeglasses was Tommaso da Modena's painting in 1352. His painting depicts monks reading and writing manuscripts. One monk uses a magnifying glass, but another wears glasses perched on his nose. By the early 14th century, eyeglasses manufacturing had become an industry and had registered guilds in cities like Venice.
Hi. One of the great inventions during the Middle Ages was the compass. Now, what is a compass? A compass is an instrument used for navigation orientation that shows directions relative to the geographic cardinal directions or point. Usually, a diagram called a compass rose shows the directions north, south, east, and west on the compass face as abbreviated initials. When the compass is used, the rose can be aligned with the corresponding geographic directions, for example, the end mark on the rose point northward. What is a magnetic compass? The magnetic compass is the most familiar compass. It functions as a pointer to magnetic north, the local magnetic meridian, because the magnetized needle, its heart, aligns itself with the horizontal component of the Earth's magnetic field. A simple drive max portable compass. The magnetic field exerts a torque on the needle pulling did not end or pull of the needle experimentally towards the Earth north magnetic pole and pulling the other towards the south magnetic.
The Middle Era, the Canon. The historian Clifford J. Rogers explains the importance of artillery trained statistically between the 1320s and 1420s. Early on, artillery had no more power than traditional siege engines, but it also had a psychological impact. This loud and thundering weapon fighting whoever faced them. Of course, such as weapon became very popular with the war leaders and generals of the time. The first step in the development were cannons which were used already quite early on. The primary source suggests that already in 1378 The English brought 400 guns to the siege of the San Malo. Most of these are probably hand cannons, not proper artillery, and they were used along with the other traditional siege engines such as trebuchets. Generally, in the early 14th century, guns were expensive and small compared to the other siege equipment, but as the number of employed cannons increased, so did their size. Early cannons shot very small shots padded of lead or iron. Then, within very short time, the size of projectile increased immensely. As early as in 1378, the Count of Holland Albert I bought 400 pounds stones for his throat to thunderbolts his quick blast hands, and throwback, which is even their names bear witness to take. Some of these immense cannons became pretty famous, such as the Harp von Steyr. It was forged in about 1420 and is currently exhibited in Vienna. With a powder charge of 15 kilograms, this monstrosity could shoot an 80-centimeter ball weighing 1,500 pounds and had range about 600 meters. In Middle Era, European cannon revolution has a high resolution because it has a four types kinds of techniques, which is lengthening of the barrels, improvement in manufacturing, metallurgic advancement, and lastly improved recipes for gunpowder. To go further, cannon is also a greatest invention during the Middle Era. This is Varen Jimar, thank you.
Hi! One great invention during the Middle Ages was the tide mill. A tide mill is a water mill driven by tidal rise and fall. A dam with a sluice is created across a suitable tidal inlet, or a section of river estuary is made into a reservoir. As the tide comes in, it enters the mill pond through a one-way gate, and this gate closes automatically when the tide begins to fall. When the tide is low enough, the stored water can be released to turn a water wheel. Tide mills are usually situated in river estuaries, away from the effects of waves, but close enough to the sea to have a reasonable tidal range. These mills have existed since the Middle Ages, and some may go back to the Roman period.
Hourglass is among a number of ingenious timekeeper devices used before the development of clock in the Middle Ages. Ever since humans began exploring the concept of time, they looked for ways to measure time using different techniques. One of these was the hourglass, a tool to measure time, made of two glass chambers, connected vertically by a narrow neck. The upper chamber is filled with sand, which flows to the lower chamber. Hourglasses are also called sunglasses, sun timers, sun clocks, or egg timers, are a relatively recent invention. It takes an hour for all the sand to flow from the upper to the lower chamber. While the smaller hourglass takes less time. Historians suggest that it was the inhabitants of Palmyra, an ancient city and present-day Homs in Syria, who first invented the hourglass. Others credit the Babylonians with the invention. Arab Muslims scientists developed the hourglass and perfected it. It used in different domains like navigation to determine the ship's speed, and to limit the time for speakers in the public debates that were very common in Harasib court. Thank you.
Printing press. Printing press was a new mode of printing texts and books which was invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the first half of the 15th century. Gutenberg's invention proved critically significant for the Renaissance that was taking place across Europe. During the early 15th century, methods of printing books were already available, but the traditional printing techniques were slow, cumbersome, and highly expensive, making it virtually impossible to print books in bulk. It was drawing in his vast skill set that Gutenberg endeavored to create a printing press that was more rapid. He did this by inventing a system where he could utilize the existing printing equipment in an all-new way. In doing so, he used a type metal alloy, and for casting type, used hand mold. The molds he used were easily adjustable, the inks he utilized were far more durable, and he used a movable type that was mechanical and easier to use. Movable type printing was already in practice in Europe before Gutenberg's invention in the 15th century, but the genius of Gutenberg lay in refining movable type printing and making it more efficient than ever before. The invention of the printing press became a crucial factor which made Renaissance possible in Europe. It made it possible for classic texts as well as new ideas and books to be disseminated to a large part of the society in no time. It was largely thanks to this new mode of printing that Reformation in Protestant regions and Enlightenment in France subsequently became possible. The press also paved the path for entirely new fields of written text, such as newspapers.
Hello everyone, this is Marielle and I'm going to tackle about the mechanical clock which is invented in the Middle Age. So to begin with, the mechanical clock which derived from water clock was born in medieval Europe or in Middle Age. The first mechanical clocks were large devices made of iron. The mechanical clock comprises an oscillating mechanism that marks the passing of time and an escapement that counts its beats. So these mechanical clocks were intended for two main purposes. The first one, it is for signaling, and the second one is for notification. And this is the timing of services and public events, and as well as for modeling the solar system. The importance of mechanical clocks is that they were made for telling time more accurately than water or sun clocks. At the time of the invention of mechanical clocks, they primarily used was in the monasteries. They were typically used to keep track of hours for daily prayers, to help monks calculate solar and lunar eclipses, and to determine as well the feast days with accuracy. So, how this invention impacted the people and the society during this period? So, this invention impacted the people and society because the accuracy and consistency of the mechanical clock that controls the bell's toll also began to become a part of daily life for the entire town. Essentially, the church bells and the mechanical clock now became the monitor of the working days of the people in that period.
The Middle Ages was a period of almost 1,000 years. It's between the fall of Rome and the beginning of the Renaissance. One big discovery in the Middle Ages is the liquor. The liquor is an alcoholic drink produced by distillation of grains, fruits, or vegetables that have already gone through alcoholic fermentation. Examples of these include the brandy, vodka, gin, rum, tequila, and whiskey, and many more. People in the Middle Ages made most wine for local consumption, yet some wine trade did continue in spite of deteriorating roads. In the Middle Ages, mead, rustic beers, and wild fruit wine became popular among Celts, Anglo-Saxons, and many more. However, wines remained the preferred beverage in the Roman centuries. Consumption of distilled beverages rose in Europe, and after the mid-14th century, when distilled liquors were commonly used as remedies for the Black Death. Around 1400s, Methods of distilled spirits from wheat, barley, and rye beers were discovered.